The 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test felt like a promise etched in plastic. Dr. Viola Robbins stared at it on their Beacon Hill kitchen's marble countertop, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. She heard his key in the lock, the familiar sound of his briefcase hitting the floor. Michael Anderson, the man who had proposed to her under a blanket of stars just 6 months ago, was home. She turned, a joyful, life-altering secret trembling on her lips. But when she saw the look in his eyes, a cold, metallic emptiness she'd never seen before, she knew her life was about to change twice over. "Michael," Viola began, her voice brimming with an excitement that died the moment he spoke. "We need to talk," he said, not meeting her gaze. He loosened his silk tie, the gesture methodical, detached. He looked past her, toward the panoramic view of the Boston skyline from their penthouse window. It was a view he'd always said represented their future. Limitless. "I have something to tell you too," she said, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach. "Something wonderful." He finally looked at her, but his eyes were like polished stones, reflecting nothing of the man she loved. Anderson Corp just finalized the merger with Sterling International. It's the deal of a lifetime, Vi. It solidifies everything. "That's incredible, Michael. We should celebrate. And I have the perfect reason. Operations are moving to the London headquarters." He cut her off, his voice flat. "I'm leaving next month." The air in the room grew thin. "Okay," she said slowly, trying to recalibrate. "London. We can make that work. I can look into transferring my residency. Or, there is no we in this, Viola." The words hung in the space between them, sharp and lethal. Viola felt a physical blow, as if the air had been knocked from her lungs. She gripped the edge of the marble counter, its coldness seeping into her fingertips. "What are you talking about? Michael, this is us. This is our home. You proposed." "That was before," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "Things change. Business changes." "Business?" Her laugh was a brittle, broken sound. "What does business have to do with us?" He finally looked directly at her, and the emptiness in his eyes had been replaced by a chilling resolve. "The merger requires more than just capital, Viola. It requires an alliance, a union." He took a breath, a surgeon making a clean, final incision. "I'm marrying Isabella Sterling next month." Isabella Sterling, the heiress, the investor's daughter whose picture was splashed across every business journal. The silence that followed was a living thing, thick and suffocating. Viola's mind raced, trying to connect the dots, trying to find a version of reality where this made sense. The last 3 years, the late-night talks, the shared dreams, the way he held her as if she were the center of his universe. It all felt like a fiction. "How long?" she whispered, the question tearing at her throat. "How long have you been planning this? It's not what you think. It's a strategic necessity." "Strategic necessity?" she repeated, her voice rising with a furious, incredulous energy. "Look at me, Michael." She stepped forward, forcing him to see her, to truly see the woman whose life he was dismantling piece by piece. "Look me in the eye and tell me the last 3 years meant nothing." He held her gaze for a long moment, and in that moment, she saw the truth. It wasn't malice or hatred. It was worse. It was a complete and utter void. The man she loved wasn't there anymore. In his place was a CEO, a strategist, a stranger. "I'm carrying your child, Michael." The words tumbled out, her last desperate card. She pointed to the test on the counter. "Our baby." He glanced at it, a flicker of something unreadable. Annoyance? Inconvenience? Crossing his face before it was gone. He reached for his briefcase. "You'll be taken care of," he said. the words clinical. "The penthouse is in your name. I'll have my lawyers arrange a settlement, a generous one. You won't have to worry about anything." "My lawyers?" she echoed, dizzy with disbelief. "You're sending lawyers to the mother of your child?" He walked to the door, a man already living in a different reality. He paused, his hand on the doorknob, but he didn't turn around. "The accounts will be transferred to my sole control by morning. It's cleaner this way. Don't try to contact me." "Michael, please!" Her voice broke, a raw, pleading sound that shamed her. The door clicked shut. Viola stood frozen in the cavernous kitchen, the city lights beginning to glitter outside. The phantom beep of a positive pregnancy test echoed in her mind, a joyful sound that had turned into a siren. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from her best friend and fellow resident, Dr. Chloe Davis. "How did he take the news? Call me." Another buzz. A news notification from a financial app. Anderson Corp announces landmark merger with Sterling International. CEO Michael Anderson to wed heiress Isabella Sterling in private London ceremony. The room spun. She rushed to the bathroom, her body convulsing as she knelt on the cold Italian tile. Her hand, trembling, found its way back to her still flat stomach. A pager on the counter beeped insistently, its red light flashing. An emergency at Massachusetts General Hospital. A life was on the line. Viola pushed herself up. She splashed icy water on her face and stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were hollow, her face pale, but underneath the shock, a flicker of something else ignited. A cold, hard fury. She was Dr. Viola Robbins first, abandoned fiancée second. Her patients needed her. She grabbed her keys, but stopped at the kitchen counter. The pregnancy test lay there, a testament to the moment her life had been both created and destroyed. She pocketed it. Evidence. In the elevator, descending from the life she thought was hers, she typed a response to Chloe. "He's gone. I'll explain later. Heading to OR3 now." The doors opened to the lobby. Viola Robbins stepped out, shoulders back, head held high. She had 9 months to figure out how to be a single mother, but right now, she had a life to save. The morning sun felt like an accusation. Viola stood at an ATM near the hospital, the crisp Boston air doing little to clear the fog of exhaustion and disbelief from her mind. For the 4th time, the screen flashed the same 3 words: access denied. He'd been ruthlessly efficient. She leaned against the machine's cool metal, the 24-hour shift she'd just completed, warring with a rising tide of panic. Every joint account, every savings account they'd built together. Gone. "Viola, you look like you've been through a war." She turned to see Chloe Davis holding 2 large cups of coffee, her brow furrowed with concern. Chloe, with her perfectly tailored scrubs and no-nonsense attitude, had been Viola's rock since their first day of med school. Viola accepted a coffee, her hands shaking so badly she almost spilled it. "He cleaned me out, Chloe," she said, her voice a raw whisper. Everything. The joint savings, the checking account. He even managed to lock my personal account. His name was on the paperwork as a secondary, from when we consolidated our banking. Chloe's perfectly manicured nails tightened around her paper cup. "That's illegal, Vi. He can't touch your personal salary deposits." "He did," Viola said numbly, pulling out her phone to show Chloe the string of notifications from their bank, each one a digital stab wound. "And the keys to the penthouse don't work anymore. The locks were changed overnight. I tried to go home after my shift." "Jesus Christ," Chloe breathed, pulling Viola away from the ATM and toward a nearby bench. "Where did you sleep?" "On-call room cot," Viola murmured, taking a sip of the coffee. A wave of nausea washed over her. "Ugh, morning sickness makes this taste like battery acid. Stay with me," Chloe said instantly, her tone leaving no room for argument. "My spare room has been empty since my sister moved out. It's yours for as long as you need." Before Viola could protest, her phone buzzed. The caller ID read, "Eleanor Anderson, Michael's mother." She declined the call. It was the 6th time Eleanor had tried to reach her since yesterday. "Damage control, probably," Viola said, her voice hard. "Or maybe she didn't know," Chloe suggested gently. "Eleanor always adored you." Viola shook her head, not wanting to entertain the thought. Any association with that family now felt like poison. Chloe pulled up a business article on her phone. The headline was stark: "Anderson Corp's Surprise Merger Shakes Market. CEO Michael Anderson, spotted in London, with fiancée Isabella Sterling." The photo showed Michael in a crisp suit, Isabella's hand possessively on his arm, as they left a Michelin star restaurant. Michael's smile was polished, practiced, the smile of a man who had just conquered the world. Viola's eyes zoned in on the timestamp at the bottom of the article. It was from 3 days ago. He had already decided her fate, celebrated his new life, while she was at home, happily planning theirs. A nurse rushed up to them, her face pale. "Dr. Robbins, your patient from last night. The appendectomy. She's crashing. Fib arrest." The world snapped back into focus. Viola handed her coffee to Chloe, her posture straightening, the weary fiancé replaced by the sharp, focused surgeon. "Page Dr. Reynolds for backup. I'll be there in 30 seconds. "Viola, you can't," Chloe started. "Later," Viola cut her off, already moving. "Lives to save first. Life to rebuild second." The next 4 hours were a blur of controlled chaos. In the sterile, unforgiving light of the operating room, there was no room for heartbreak. There was only the delicate life-or-death dance of medicine. Viola moved with a precision that bordered on superhuman, her mind a fortress against the emotional storm raging within her. She saved the patient. When she finally emerged from the OR, adrenaline giving way to a bone-deep exhaustion, she had 7 missed calls from Eleanor Anderson and 1 text from an unknown number. "Legal documents requiring your signature will arrive by courier this afternoon." She was staring at the text when Chloe found her again, holding a protein bar and a bottle of water. "You're moving in with me. End of discussion," Chloe announced. "I already had my brother drop off some boxes at my place. We'll get your things from that apartment when you're ready. Legally, he has to give you access to your personal belongings." Tears threatened to spill over, hot and heavy. "I can't ask you to do that. You can and you will." Chloe's tone was steel. "I've already mapped out 3 banks within walking distance of the hospital. We'll open a new account for you during your lunch break. I've got ginger chews in my locker for the morning sickness. And my cousin, Mark, is a lawyer, a shark. He specializes in exactly this kind of high-asset, messy breakup. I already called him." The tears finally fell, silent tracks down her tired face. "Don't you dare thank me," Chloe warned, pulling her into a fierce hug. "Just promise me something." "Anything," Viola whispered into her shoulder. "When you're back on your feet, and you will be, we make him regret ever learning the name Viola Robbins." Viola's pager went off again. Another emergency. She pulled back, wiped her eyes, and squared her shoulders. A small, humorless smile touched her lips. "Deal," she said, already walking backward toward the ER. "But first we save lives." "I'll handle the banks," Chloe called after her. As Viola scrubbed in for her second emergency surgery of the day, she made a silent promise to the tiny, nascent life inside her. Michael Anderson might have taken their past, but he would not define their future. She had 9 months to become strong enough for both of them. The scrub nurse caught her eye through the window. "Ready, Dr. Robbins?" Viola nodded, hands raised, mind clear. "Ready!" 3 months into her pregnancy, Viola sat in Chloe's cozy living room, surrounded by medical journals. A glossy magazine lay open on the coffee table, a cruel intrusion into her new, fiercely guarded world. Michael and Isabella's London wedding photos dominated the society pages. A perfect blend of corporate synergy and timeless elegance, the article gushed. "Stop torturing yourself," Chloe said, snatching the magazine and tossing it into the recycling bin. "Focus on this instead." She slid a letter across the table. The official letterhead of Massachusetts General Hospital gleamed under the lamplight. Viola's breath caught. She picked it up with a trembling hand. Your research proposal on minimally invasive pediatric cardiac surgical techniques." She scanned the page, her eyes widening. "They approved it," she whispered, straightening up. "Full funding, and a dedicated research team. You're not just a resident anymore, Vi. You're officially leading your own groundbreaking project." Chloe grinned, her pride evident. While somebody was busy getting married in London, somebody else was busy revolutionizing pediatric surgery. The achievement was a balm to her wounded spirit, a validation that her worth wasn't tied to a man or his empire. It was hers, forged in skill and determination. Her phone buzzed. Eleanor Anderson. After dozens of ignored calls, Michael's mother had taken to sending texts. "Please, Viola, let me help. This isn't what I wanted for you, or for my grandchild." Viola blocked the number, her heart a tight knot of conflicting emotions. "Your mother called the hospital again," Chloe mentioned carefully, watching her reaction. "She's still insisting you move back to your hometown in Ohio. Says she can support you." "Not happening," Viola said, rubbing her growing belly. "My life is here. My work is here." Her independence was the one thing Michael hadn't been able to take, and she would guard it with everything she had. That afternoon, another courier arrived with a thick envelope from Michael's lawyers. It had become a weekly ritual. Each set of papers was more complex than the last, filled with dense legal jargon. Chloe's cousin, Mark, reviewed every single one. "It's a standard non-disclosure agreement, but with ironclad penalty clauses," he had explained over the phone about the first batch. "He's buying your silence about the pregnancy. He wants to erase you." "He can't," Viola had replied, her voice cold. "No, he can't," Mark agreed, "and that gives us leverage. He's wiring support funds into an escrow account every month, trying to build a paper trail that he's a responsible guy. But you haven't signed anything. By accepting the funds into an account we control, while refusing to sign the NDA, you're holding all the cards. We play the long game." Viola opened the new envelope, her face impassive. "Speaking of the long game," she said, turning to her laptop. She opened a financial tracking program Mark had helped her set up. Using the money from the escrow account, Michael's guilt money, and her own meager savings, she was making small, careful investments in biotech startups and, ironically, in competitors of Anderson Corp. All perfectly legal, all under the radar. "How close are you?" Chloe asked, peering at the screen. 3. "Maybe 4 more years of this," Viola calculated, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "By then, the portfolio will be significant enough. I'll own enough shares in key tech sectors to matter, to have a voice. He'll never see it coming." Her hand rested on her belly as the baby kicked, a tiny, reassuring flutter. "No," she whispered. "He won't." Her pager buzzed. Emergency consultation needed in pediatrics. "Duty calls," she said, rising carefully. "Hey, Vi," Chloe called as she reached the door. "The nurses are organizing a baby shower for you next week. Just small, just hospital staff." Viola paused, a lump forming in her throat. "Chloe, we're your family now," Chloe said simply. "All of us." As Viola drove to the hospital, she passed a massive digital billboard featuring Anderson Corp's new global headquarters. Michael's face smiled down at the city, the slogan beneath it reading, "Building the Future." "Yes," Viola whispered to her unborn child, placing a hand on her stomach. "But not the future he expects." Her phone lit up with a hospital update. "Critically ill newborn, incoming. Emergency surgery likely." Viola shifted gears, her mind already moving to the case ahead. The intricate web of veins and arteries, the delicate dance of saving a life no bigger than her hand. Let Michael build his empire of silicon and circuits. She was building something stronger, a future made of skill, determination, and the quiet, unshakable strength of a mother's love. The baby kicked again, a strong, insistent pulse. "Message received, little one," she smiled. "Let's go save some lives." "Dr. Robbins, your BP is rising," Dr. Martinez warned, his eyes darting between Viola and the monitor. "We need to—" "I know exactly what my BP is doing," Viola snapped, her hand steady, despite being deep inside a newborn's chest cavity. "And I'm not leaving this until this child's heart is beating properly." She was 39 weeks pregnant, technically on maternity leave, but had come in for a quick consultation when the emergency case arrived. A 6-day-old baby with a rare congenital heart defect. No other surgeon on call had her specific expertise. "Viola, let me take over," Chloe urged from the other side of the operating table, her voice tight with worry. "Almost done," Viola insisted, her focus absolute. Her surgical precision was unwavering, even as a powerful contraction ripped through her abdomen. She gritted her teeth, refusing to make a sound. "Just need to place this last suture. There." She looked up at the monitors. "Watch." The erratic line on the EKG stabilized. A steady, rhythmic beep filled the room. Normal sinus rhythm. "Patient is stable," the anesthesiologist confirmed, a note of awe in his voice. Viola stepped back, pulling her gloved hands away. She leaned against the instrument table, a wave of dizziness washing over her. "Close for me, Chloe," she said, her voice strained. I think I'm in labor." The controlled calm of the OR exploded into a different kind of focused action. Someone helped her onto a gurney. Her blood-stained scrubs were carefully cut away and replaced with a hospital gown. Through the blur of motion and the escalating waves of pain, Viola kept asking about her tiny patient. "The baby is fine, Vi," Chloe assured her, squeezing her hand as they wheeled her toward the maternity ward. "Perfect recovery. Now for God's sake, focus on your own kid for once." 14 hours later, Leo Robbins came into the world with a healthy scream and a full head of dark, unruly hair. As a nurse placed him in her arms, Viola felt a love so fierce and overwhelming it eclipsed all the pain and betrayal of the past year. "He looks like him," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, tracing the line of her son's tiny jaw. "He looks like you," Chloe corrected firmly, her own eyes glistening. Strong, stubborn, already proving people wrong by arriving during emergency surgery. A soft knock at the door made them both tense up, but it was just a nurse, struggling with a massive floral arrangement of white lilies and orchids. "These came for you, Dr. Robbins." Viola's heart clenched. There was only one person who would send such an extravagant display. The card read simply, "Congratulations. With love, Eleanor Anderson." "How did she—" Viola began. "Hospital gossip travels faster than an infection," Chloe sighed. "Want me to throw them out?" Viola stared at the opulent flowers, then down at her son, whose tiny hand was wrapped securely around her finger. "No," she said softly. "Put them by the window. Whatever else she is, she's his grandmother." It was a complicated, painful truth, but one she couldn't deny. Another knock. Dr. Martinez peeked his head in, a broad smile on his face. "Your post-op patient from earlier is doing beautifully. Perfect recovery. The parents are calling you a miracle worker. They're asking about you. Tell them Dr. Robbins is recovering from saving their child's life while simultaneously giving birth to her own," Chloe announced proudly to the room at large. Viola barely heard them. She was lost in Leo's face, memorizing every detail. He had Michael's determined chin, but her eyes, wide, intelligent, and startlingly focused for a newborn. His hands were so small, yet his grip was resolute. "Hello, Leo," she whispered, her voice choked with tears. "We're going to be okay." Her phone, lying on the bedside table, lit up with a news alert. Anderson Corp opens new state-of-the-art London headquarters. She glanced at the flowers by the window, then back at her son. Two worlds, two paths, diverged right here in this hospital room. One led to bitterness and the past. The other led to strength and the future. A young resident poked his head in. "Dr. Robbins, sorry to disturb you, but we have a complex case in the NICU. Could you consult on the—" "She literally just gave birth!" Chloe exclaimed, ready to throw him out. Viola laughed, a real, genuine laugh that surprised even herself. "It's okay," she said, her voice tired but clear. "Tell me about the case." As she listened to the resident's description, Leo still cradled in her arms, Viola felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. This was who she was. A doctor, a mother, a survivor. "Start the preliminary workup," she instructed the resident calmly. "I'll review the files and scans from my room tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow?" Chloe gaped. "Viola, you can't be serious." "Watch me," Viola said, adjusting Leo in her arms. "We'll do rounds from the wheelchair if we have to. Right, little one?" Leo yawned in response, a tiny, perfect motion. And for the first time since Michael had walked out that door, Viola felt completely, absolutely certain. They were going to be more than okay. They were going to be extraordinary. 3 years evaporated in a whirlwind of sleepless nights, surgical triumphs, and the breathtaking pace of a child's growth. The Henderson Children's Hospital Annual Gala was the pinnacle of Boston's philanthropic scene, a glittering affair of old money and new medicine. Dr. Viola Robbins, however, was not there as a guest. She was the guest of honor, this year's recipient of the prestigious Medical Innovation Award for her revolutionary cardiac technique that was now saving children across the country. She adjusted her emerald evening gown, the silk cool against her skin. A small, warm hand was tucked firmly in hers. At 3 years old, Leo, dressed in a miniature tuxedo, was already turning heads. "Ready, buddy?" she whispered, kneeling down to his level. "Ready, Dr. Mummy," he replied with a seriousness that made several nearby photographers coo. Chloe appeared beside them, resplendent in sapphire blue. "They're ready for you backstage. I'll take Leo." "No," Viola said firmly, her voice quiet but unyielding. "He stays with me." The decision to have Leo present her with the award had raised eyebrows, but Viola was done hiding. She was done letting Michael Anderson's shadow dictate the narrative of her life. Let the world see exactly what her success looked like. A single mother, a pioneering surgeon, and a child who was her greatest achievement. The ballroom buzzed with the clinking of glasses and the low hum of conversation. Viola guided Leo toward the stage, nodding at colleagues and hospital board members. And then she saw him. He was standing near the bar, older, harder, but unmistakable. Michael Anderson. His presence shouldn't have been a surprise. Anderson Corp was a major donor to the hospital, but seeing him in the flesh sent a jolt through her system. For a heart-stopping moment, the polished floor seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Their eyes met across the crowded room. The years fell away. She was back in their kitchen, the pregnancy test a lead weight in her pocket. He looked just as she remembered, but the easy confidence was gone, replaced by something more brittle. His gaze locked on her, and then, slowly, it dropped to the small boy holding her hand. His face went white. The color drained from his cheeks, leaving behind a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. The glass of scotch in his hand trembled slightly. He took a half step forward, his mouth parting as if to say something, but no words came out. He was frozen. Dr. Robbins. An organizer appeared at her elbow, oblivious to the silent, high-stakes drama unfolding. "You're on in 5. Viola broke the gaze first. It was a victory. She knelt down to Leo. "Remember what we practiced?" He nodded solemnly. "Hand you the special doctor prize and say, 'Congratulations, Dr. Mummy.'" "Perfect," she said, kissing his forehead, acutely aware of Michael's stare burning into them. The introduction began, a glowing tribute to her work. Viola took the stage, Leo matching her step for step, his tiny hand gripping hers. The spotlight found them, and a hush fell over the room. As she began her speech, she felt Michael's presence like a physical weight. He hadn't moved. He just watched, a ghost at the feast of her success. 3 years ago, she began, her voice clear and strong. I realized something about tiny hearts. They are remarkably resilient. They heal, they grow stronger. And sometimes they teach us more about courage than we could ever learn in medical school. She spoke of her research, of the children whose lives had been changed. But her words were a shield. Behind them, her mind was a whirlwind. He sees him. He knows. The son he'd abandoned, the child he'd tried to erase with a settlement, was here, real and brilliant, a living testament to his betrayal. Editor. And so, she concluded, her gaze sweeping the room but deliberately avoiding the bar, to all the tiny hearts I've had the privilege to help heal, thank you. But my biggest thank you goes to my son, Leo, who taught me that the strongest hearts aren't always the ones we operate on. Leo stepped forward, right on cue, holding the heavy crystal award with careful, determined hands. He leaned into the microphone. "Congratulations, Dr. Mummy," he said, his clear, high voice echoing through the ballroom and drawing a wave of appreciative laughter and applause. The standing ovation was immediate. Viola hugged Leo close, the flash of cameras creating a dizzying constellation of light around them. She did not look at the bar. She did not need to. Later, at their table, Chloe leaned over, her eyes alight with a fierce satisfaction. "He's gone. Left right after your speech. Looked like he'd seen a ghost." Viola nodded, watching Leo charm the hospital's chief of surgery with a surprisingly detailed explanation of the aortic valve. "Good," she said, her voice tight. "He looked shattered, Vi," Chloe added. "Seeing Leo must have what?" Viola's voice was ice. Reminded him of what he walked away from? He made his choice. "This," she said, pulling Leo into her lap and breathing in his familiar, sweet scent, "is the consequence." Leo ran back to their table a few minutes later, his face glowing. "Mummy, Dr. Wilson says I can see the new intraoperative MRI machine tomorrow." As Leo launched into a surprisingly accurate description of magnetic resonance imaging, Viola caught sight of a familiar figure by the exit. Eleanor Anderson, elegant in silver, was watching them, tears glistening in her eyes. Viola gave her the slightest of nods, an acknowledgement of a shared, complicated love for the boy between them. Eleanor returned it before disappearing into the night. "Dr. Robbins?" A nurse hurried over, her face urgent. "Emergency case incoming. A multi-vehicle pileup on the I-93. We need you." Viola checked her watch, then looked at Chloe, who was already reaching for Leo. "Go," Chloe said. "We'll be fine." Viola knelt to kiss Leo's head. "Be good for Aunt Chloe." "Save the tiny hearts, Mummy," he replied, his words a familiar, beloved refrain. Her own heart swelled with a love so fierce it almost hurt. This, she thought, as she hurried toward the hospital wing, swapping her evening gown for scrubs in her mind. This is real success, and Michael Anderson had no idea what he had lost. The surgical board was buzzing the next morning, but not about the successful multi-casualty response. The Society page headline on someone's phone read, "Tech mogul Michael Anderson makes abrupt exit from Henderson Gala." Viola ignored it, focusing on her post-op notes. Another night, another life saved. Her world was here, in the quiet, focused aftermath of healing. "Dr. Robbins?" A nurse approached her desk, looking hesitant. "There's a call for you, from London." "I'm not interested," Viola said, without looking up, assuming it was Michael or his lawyers. "It's not him," the nurse said quietly. "It's a Ms. Isabella Sterling. She says it's urgent, and that it's about your shares." Viola's pen froze mid-sentence. Shares. She had been so careful, using shell companies and a discreet broker Mark had recommended. How could Isabella know? "Take a message," Viola replied, her mind racing. She also mentioned something about Eleanor Anderson's condition. Viola's head snapped up. "What condition?" "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer." Chloe's voice came from behind her. She'd just come from the oncology wing, her face grim. "I just saw the labs. Eleanor's being admitted here today, under an alias. She flew in from London last night." The pen snapped in Viola's hand, blue ink staining her fingers. "How long?" "Months, maybe," Chloe said softly. "More likely weeks. She's requesting you." Viola laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "I'm a pediatric surgeon, Chloe." "She needs you, Vi," Chloe cut in, her meaning clear. She needed the mother of her only grandchild. Viola's phone buzzed. It was a news alert. Anderson Corpstock plunges amid leadership crisis and divorce rumors. The gala, the rumors, the stock drop. It was all connected. "Dr. Robbins?" The nurse was still waiting. "About Mrs. Sterling's call." "Tell her I'll call her back," Viola said, standing and straightening her white coat. "After I see Eleanor." Eleanor's private room was quiet, the harsh hospital reality at odds with her innate elegance. She looked smaller, her usual vibrancy diminished by the crisp hospital sheets. "I wondered who would tell you first," Eleanor said by way of greeting, her voice weak. "Your daughter-in-law, surprisingly," Viola said, her doctor's instincts kicking in as she automatically checked the monitors. "Though I suspect her call wasn't really about my shares." "Clever girl," Eleanor smiled faintly. "Isabella is preparing for war. She wants allies, and she thinks you." Viola stopped, the pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. "She wants to force Michael out. The board is split. Your shares, they could tip the balance." Eleanor reached for Viola's hand, her skin papery and cool. "But that's not why I'm here." "I know." Viola squeezed her hand gently. "Leah will want to see you." "Michael doesn't know about any of it." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "The cancer, Isabella's plans, the gifts I've been sending Leo. Do you want him to?" "What I want," Eleanor said, her voice gaining a sliver of its old strength, "is to see my grandson while I still can. The rest," she waved a frail hand, "the rest is just business." Viola's pager buzzed. An infant in the NICU was in distress. "Go," Eleanor said. "But Viola, when Isabella calls again, you listen to her. Sometimes revenge and justice look remarkably similar." Viola paused at the door. "I'll bring Leo after my surgery." "Thank you." Eleanor's voice stopped her again. "He has Michael's mind, you know. But he has your heart. Thank God for that." Viola hurried to the OR, her mind racing. Isabella Sterling wanted an ally. Eleanor was dying. And somewhere in London, Michael Anderson was in the center of a storm, about to learn exactly how much he stood to lose, in more ways than one. Her phone buzzed one last time before she scrubbed in. It was a call from an unknown international number. She let it go to voicemail, already knowing who it was. The game was changing, and for the first time in 3 years, she was no longer just a pawn. The flight to New York was a blur of medical journal articles and anxious thoughts. Isabella Sterling had been relentless. Her proposal was audacious, a hostile takeover from within. Isabella had her own significant holdings and the backing of her family's firm. Combined with Viola's shares, and the shares Eleanor had quietly transferred into a trust for Leo, they would form a controlling bloc. They could overthrow Michael. The Anderson Corp boardroom was a fishbowl of glass and steel overlooking Central Park, a throne room for a king who had no idea he was about to be deposed. Michael, at the far end of the long mahogany table, had gone pale the moment Viola walked in. He hadn't known she was coming. Isabella, poised and glacial in a Chanel suit, sat between them, a silent arbiter. The board of Anderson Corp will now hear from Dr. Viola Robbins, representing an 18% controlling interest, the chairman announced, the surprise evident in his voice. Before I discuss the restructuring proposal, Viola said, her voice calm and steady as she stood, I have something to share. She opened her laptop and connected it to the room's massive display. There was no spreadsheet, no financial projection. Instead, a video began to play. It was Leo, age 3, sitting at a small desk, his brow furrowed in concentration. He was explaining the principles of fluid dynamics to his grandmother, Eleanor, over a video call, using his bath toys as props. The footage then cut to him at a whiteboard, scribbling equations that would baffle most adults. This is Leo Robbins, Viola said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence as the video played. Age 3. IQ tested at 164. He has an intuitive understanding of engineering principles and advanced mathematics. She let the images of the brilliant, happy little boy sink in. He is my son. She paused, then turned her gaze directly to Michael, delivering the final, devastating blow. Our son. Michael. The boardroom erupted. Board members exchanged shocked whispers. Michael gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles white, his face a canvas of disbelief and fury. In that moment of chaos, Viola's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Chloe. Her blood ran cold. Eleanor's crashing. They're moving her to the ICU. Get back now. Time snapped back into focus. I'll keep this brief, Viola said, her voice sharp, commanding the room's attention. My priority is the long-term stability and ethical leadership of this company for the sake of its employees and for the future of my son, its newest major shareholder. She looked at Isabella, a silent, powerful acknowledgement passing between them. I am voting my shares, and the shares held in trust for my son, in favor of Isabella Sterling's proposed leadership restructuring. Michael Anderson is hereby removed as CEO, effective immediately. She closed her laptop as shouts and protests filled the room. Michael hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. He just stared at her, his world collapsing around him in real time. Dr. Robbins, Isabella called as Viola headed for the door, her expression unreadable. We should discuss. My lawyer will handle everything, Viola said, without slowing down. I have a patient waiting. She was on the first flight back to Boston, but it wasn't fast enough. Eleanor passed away an hour before she landed. Chloe met her at the hospital entrance, her face etched with grief. She wasn't alone, Chloe said softly. I stayed with her. She left this for you. She handed Viola an envelope. Inside was a letter and a small USB drive. Viola read it in the quiet hospital chapel, the silence pressing in on her. Dearest Viola, by now the board meeting is over. I hope you showed them our boy's brilliant mind. It's my last gift to you. Proof that Michael threw away not just love, but a legacy. The drive contains everything. Michael's original, backdated merger documents, the predated marriage license with Isabella, the irregular stock transfers he made to hide assets. I've kept copies of everything since the day he left you. Use it wisely. Not for revenge, but for Leo. He'll need protection from the storm that is coming. Love him enough for all of us. Eleanor. Viola plugged the drive into her phone. Understanding dawned as she scrolled through the files. Michael hadn't just abandoned them. He had committed corporate fraud to do it. The merger, the marriage, everything had been orchestrated months before she ever told him about the pregnancy. He had been lying to her for nearly a year. Her phone rang. Michael Anderson. "Don't," Chloe warned. But Viola answered, a cold calm settling over her. Silence filled the line, thick with 3 years of unspoken words. "Why?" Michael finally asked, his voice broken, unrecognizable. "You lost the right to ask questions 3 years ago," Viola said, her voice like ice. She looked through the chapel's glass door toward the waiting room, where a family was anxiously awaiting news of their child. "The company is Isabella's now. The truth," she said, thinking of the USB drive, "is yours to deal with." "Viola, please!" "Goodbye, Michael." She hung up and blocked his number one final time. 3 weeks after Eleanor's quiet funeral, the storm broke. The contents of the USB drive, anonymously leaked to the SEC and the press, had created a firestorm. Fraud allegations. Rock Anderson Corp., former CEO Michael Anderson, under federal investigation. The company, already reeling from the leadership coup, went into a death spiral. Viola read the court documents in her office at the hospital. "Your request for visitation rights has been denied." Michael, through his lawyers, had tried to petition for access to Leo. The judge, citing the ongoing federal investigation and Michael's prior abandonment, had shut it down unequivocally. Beside the legal papers sat an unopened invitation to Leo's 4th birthday party. Her office phone lit up. Her assistant's voice was tense. "Dr. Robbins, a Mr. Anderson is in the lobby. He's refusing to leave without seeing you." Viola closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "Call security. He says he has papers from his mother's estate for Leo." That made her pause. "Give me 5 minutes." She found him by the hospital's large saltwater aquarium, a spot Leo loved. He looked destroyed. The designer suit was wrinkled, his eyes hollowed out by sleepless nights and public disgrace. The arrogant CEO was gone, replaced by a ghost. "Security is on their way," she said by way of greeting, keeping a safe distance. "I'll be brief," he said, his voice raspy. He held out a thick manila envelope. "Mother left this for Leo. Her lawyers just released it." Viola took it carefully, their fingers brushing for a fraction of a second. It felt like an electric shock. "That's all," he said. "Isabella won. The company's finished. I'm finished." He let out a hollow, humorless laugh. "Seems fair somehow." "Nothing about this is fair, Michael." Her voice was steel. "You made sure of that 3 years ago." His eyes pleaded with her, a raw desperation in them she'd never seen before. "I want to meet him. Just once. Please, Viola." "No!" The word was absolute. "He's not a company you can acquire, Michael." She cut him off, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "He's a child. My child. The one you walked away from." "Our child," he corrected quietly. Her laugh was bitter, sharp enough to draw blood. "You lost the right to that word the night you chose a merger over your family. The merger was wrong. Everything. All of it was wrong." He stepped closer, his hands outstretched. "Let me try to." "Security's here." Viola nodded to the 2 approaching guards. "Goodbye, Michael." "Wait." He pulled one more, smaller envelope from his jacket pocket. My letter. For him. For when he's older. Please. Viola took it, if only to make him leave faster. As the guards flanked him, she delivered one last, quiet blow. You should know. His latest test results came in. He's already surpassing your company's best engineers. At age 4, pain, raw and visceral, flashed across Michael's face. Like his father. No, Viola interrupted, her voice clear and final. Like his mother. I'm the one who stayed. She watched security escort him out, a fallen king leaving her kingdom. Later that night, long after Leo was asleep, she opened the envelopes. Eleanor's was full of love, wisdom, and the deed to a trust fund that would ensure Leo's education and future were untouchable. Michael's letter was full of excuses, regrets, and self-pity. She sealed them both in a new, larger envelope, dating it for Leo's 18th birthday. Then she wrote her own letter, short but true. My dearest son, your father chose an empire of glass and silicon. I chose you. It was the easiest choice I've ever made. Love, Mom. Her phone buzzed with a breaking news alert. Anderson Corp assets seized. Bankruptcy proceedings begin. Viola turned off her phone and went to check on Leo. He was sleeping peacefully, surrounded by books about cardiac surgery and advanced physics, Eleanor's last gifts scattered among them. Some choices, she thought, watching her son breathe, echo forever. But sometimes they echo in ways we never expect. She closed his door softly, leaving the past sealed in letters for another day. 3 years later, the Grand Hall of the National Medical Conference in Chicago erupted in applause. And the Pioneer in Pediatric Surgery Award goes to Dr. Viola Robbins. Viola took the stage, her heart swelling with a quiet, profound joy. Leo, now a bright, confident 6-year-old, sat in the front row between Chloe and his favorite nurse, beaming. 3 years ago, I stood at a different podium. Viola began, her voice resonating with warmth and authority, and I spoke about tiny hearts. Today I want to talk about bigger ones, the ones that keep beating despite every obstacle, the ones that teach us about resilience, forgiveness, and the courage to rebuild. Her new technique had become the global standard, saving thousands of children. But as she spoke, her eyes kept finding Leo, who was practically vibrating with excitement to share his own news. In the back of the hall, unnoticed by the crowd, Michael Anderson slipped in. He looked like a different man. The designer suit and corporate polish were gone, replaced by simple, worn clothes. The federal investigation had ended in a plea deal that stripped him of his fortune and banned him from ever serving as an officer of a public company again. He was free, but he was a nobody. Every parent who has trusted me with their child's heart, thank you, Viola concluded. You've taught me that the strongest muscle isn't always the one we can see. Leo bounded up to the stage, presenting her with the award. But this time he had his own announcement. He leaned into the microphone, his voice clear and proud. My mummy fixes hearts, he declared, and I'm going to help her. I got accepted to the Gifted Medical Scholars program at Johns Hopkins. A collective gasp went through the audience. The program was designed for exceptional high school students. Leo was 6. Viola hugged him close, feeling tears prick her eyes. That's right, baby, she whispered. We'll fix them together. Later at the reception, Chloe nudged her. He's gone again. Slipped out right after Leo's announcement. Viola nodded, watching Leo explain cardiac anatomy to a group of amazed medical students. Good, she said. Chloe handed her a folded newspaper clipping she'd been saving. The headline was from an international paper. Former tech CEO finds new purpose. Volunteering at children's hospitals in Southeast Asia. Viola tucked it into her purse without comment. Let Michael find his redemption elsewhere. Her path, their path, was already set. "Mommy!" Leo called, running over. "The dean wants to know if I can start the program next month." Viola moved toward her son, leaving the clipping and its implications behind. They had hearts to heal, a future to build. As they left the conference hall, Leo chattering about valve replacements and cardiac rhythms, Viola caught their reflection in a plate glass window. A mother and son, white coats matching in their future, both ready to change the world. Some empires, she thought, are built of glass and steel, but the strongest ones are built on love, one beating heart at a time. The children's cardiac wing of Henderson Hospital now bore a new name, the Eleanor Anderson Center for Pediatric Innovation. And at its heart was a research station with a small nameplate, Dr. Leo Robbins, lead researcher. The future was here, and it was brilliant in the end. Viola Robbins didn't just rebuild her life. She built a legacy far greater than the empire that had cast her aside. Her story is a powerful testament to the fact that true strength isn't about the power you hold over others, but the resilience you find within yourself. It's a reminder that from the deepest betrayals can grow the most extraordinary futures, and the most valuable empires are the ones built not of wealth, but of love, purpose, and the courage to heal. If Viola's journey of strength and resilience moved you, please give this story a like and share it with someone who needs a reminder of their own power. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of overcoming the odds.